Thank you again for joining us for the 7th edition of the CoveritLive University webinar series. My name is Spencer Kitley. I'm the event specialist here at CoveritLive. We appreciate you joining us for today, the latest webinar, and we look forward to helping you better manage your audience and content. I'd like to remind you to please mute your computer microphones or your telephones during the presentation. Before we get started, I want to provide you a brief overview of the format of today's session. We expect the webinar to last 20 to 30 minutes. At the conclusion, we'll take all of your questions, which can be sent in via the WebEx client chat window, which can be accessed through the green toolbar at the top of your screen. Additionally, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can submit questions through that same WebEx chat window, and members of our team will be taking questions throughout. Tomorrow, the webinar will be available online, and you'll receive an email when it is available, so you can share that with other members of your team. And now, I'd like to introduce the host of today's webinar, the General Manager of CoveritLive, Ben Schneider.
Thanks, Spencer, and thanks everybody for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it and look forward to sharing with you some new features that are available in the Event Studio that will help you manage your audience and content in a couple of different contexts depending upon the type of event that you're running. We'll have two areas that we'll focus on, and this will feature the new Event Studio and a lot of the new capabilities that we've built in, particularly for helping you handle a large audience with lots of comments coming in, as well as working with a team whenever you're running a CoveritLive event and have producers and panelists as contributors inside the event. Then we'll also focus on how you can add more social content to your events. Maybe your audience is more passive, or maybe you just want to augment the experience with a lot of content from Twitter or some other social sources that are now available to you in the Event Studio, and we'll go over some of those features as well. We'll spend most of our time actually demoing the Event Studio today and showing you some of the new tips and tricks. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to see it and work with it, walk through the tour, and maybe use it a little bit, if not actually run a full event with it. There's a lot of helpful information on the support site, and we've sent out a number of notifications and included information in your dashboard linking to the announcement about the availability of the Event Studio. And we've also included a lot of inline help inside the Event Studio, so even as you run your first event, there's lots of reminders and things that help you walk through how to use it, since it is a very different experience than the classic console. But if you have not had that chance yet, then hopefully this will give you the opportunity to learn some new things about the Event Studio and get a little bit more comfortable so you can run your next event with it. And if you have, maybe learn some tips and tricks that you weren't already aware of or didn't realize were new pieces of functionality within the Event Studio. The first area we're going to start is on managing a large audience and how to manage content. And particularly we'll focus on comments. If you have a large amount of comments streaming in from various different sources, whether it's just readers submitting them through the window, or if you've enabled something custom through the API or the email comment option, we'll show you some of the ways that you can manage those, and then also delegate that if you're working with a team of panelists and producers. And we'll also walk through some of the new features, enhancements around being able to manage your panelists and producers, see their status, deal with invitations in case they're not sent or not received, as well as communicating with the team during the course of the event. Then we'll transition to how you can pull in more automated content to keep your event up to date, as well as very, very relevant socially, and show you some of the new capabilities around using Twitter and the moderation and filtering capabilities that we've added around Twitter, as well as some of the other more robust search capabilities we have across other social destinations like Instagram and YouTube and Wikipedia, as well as how to add your own content. So that gives you an overview of a lot of the areas we'll be focusing on, and what I'll do now is jump into our Event Studio. For all of our CILU sessions, we've had our CILU demo trigger running, and we'll be using that again today. And this will be where we focus today on how you use the new Event Studio and starting off with managing a large audience with a lot of content coming in. So in here, I've got the Event Studio open. I've got my screen expanded so I can see all three areas. And what we'll start with is how to focus on comments coming in. So I've still got a little bit of content coming in from Twitter. I've also got my event live, and now there's some content coming in from some comments from various different sources. And in an event that's particularly active, we'll see a lot of content. We'll see a lot of things start to stream in here. The screen will be moving, and you'll see it refreshing a pretty good bit. With WebEx, sometimes there's a slight delay, so you may not see all these come in right at the same time, but as you'll notice, I'm now starting to get a lot of content pouring into the event. The comments are starting to come pretty quickly, and it may be hard to keep up with those and read them individually. So as I'm looking at those, and I'm seeing which comments coming from my users, what I think might be valuable, I've been scrolling through and looking at different pieces of content that may have been contributed that were older and are transitioning through. I may see that something that catches my eye, but as more content's coming in, I haven't had a chance to really look at it. One thing to note is that you can pause the content. So whether this is Twitter content or comments or whatever it may be, you can pause and have the stream stop, so it will be static for a few minutes while you review content and make a decision around what you want to include. As you'll see, new items that are coming in will continue to queue up here at the top, and it will let me know how much new content is coming in, very similar to whenever you're on Facebook and you see new stories coming in, or if you're on Twitter and you see that there are new tweets. This will continue to count up and accumulate up at the top while I'm reviewing content, finding that piece that looks really, really interesting that I want to add. So this is a great comment. Let me add that. And then as you can see, when I mouse over any particular item, I've got shortcuts to a number of capabilities. So, for example, I have the ability to add the comments or to remove it altogether, which will remove it from the smart stream and also prevent it from coming into the live event. I can edit it. So if there's something inappropriate or maybe just one word that I want to replace out with asterisks because somebody said something they shouldn't, whatever the case may be, I can do that and save that and then make a decision on whether or not I publish it. Similarly, if it's coming from a user who's logged in or from the viewer window who's just provided their name and is online now, I can send a private message to that user. Maybe I need to warn them and tell them that they've said something they shouldn't, or they need to back off, or that it was a great comment, and I'm going to put them on auto-publish, so please be careful. Which is another option that I have right next to private message, which is to always allow content from that particular user. On the opposite side, maybe I need to ban them because they're providing a lot of unnecessary stuff, creating noise and making it hard for me to run the event. And I'm also going to let them know, maybe with a private message, hey, I'm removing you because you're being inappropriate. So all of those things are right there in line, very easy for me to do, takes quick action. And then one other area that's new is the ability to tag this content. So I can assign a color to any one of these items. And whenever I do that, you'll see that particular piece of content now has a color associated with it inside the smart stream. And that allows me to find that item easily later. And as I'll show whenever you're working with panelists and producers, it gives you the option to delegate based on how things are tagged and also to find them very quickly and easily. So now that I've found the comment I was looking for, I've paused the items, I'm ready for them to play again. I hit play and the content starts streaming back in again. And you can see my comments continue to come. So as these comments come in and as I'm monitoring, I may determine that there's one particular item or some particular types of comments that I want to find, maybe from a particular user. So I now have the ability to search very quickly in the smart stream by simply entering the keyword. And now I can limit and filter or search down to just those comments that were submitted by Nigel in this case. It could be from a user. It could be about a particular thing that somebody said. Let me find stuff from Bob. And again, I can pause to review that content and decide what actions I want to take. So the search provides me a very robust capability and a very quick way to find something if I know I'm looking for either maybe a user or a particular type of content or something that was mentioned. Similarly, I can also filter a number of different ways. So say I want to see only comments that had images. Well, I can filter and see that, and you'll see that all the text comments have been removed from my screen. Or maybe I only want to see those comments that came in from the email option. Maybe I know that there's certain users who are emailing me that way. Maybe I have somebody in the field, or there was something that somebody told me they were going to email in that way, and I want to find it quickly. Similarly, maybe I only want to look at API comments because I set up something outside of the normal viewer window. Using the API, a custom experience where people are submitting content, and there's specific content that I want to get from that. Maybe it's an automated play-by-play, or maybe it's some other feed that I'm adding through the API, and I want to get to that content to review it and approve it. As you can see with the filtering, I can very quickly get myself down to just those limited cases, or I can go back and review all my comments. And with any combination of filtering and searching, I can get my comments reduced down further. So this makes it very easy to find content quickly, to find very specific content, and then continue to run my event from there. So the pause tool, coupled with the ability to search and filter by different types of comments, can be very, very powerful whenever you've got a large amount of content coming in. Even if you're running that event by yourself, it makes it much easier to find what you're looking for, and then potentially hone in on just that particular content and take action on it. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and tag a few different items with some different colors, and we'll see some examples of how we can use this later with multiple panelists and producers. But even if I'm working the event by myself, I also have the ability to filter content by tags. So if I just select tags at all, it'll show me everything that has been tagged with any sort of color. So I can see that I've all my orange and blue items here. And then I can further select one of those colors to restrict down to just the particular color of items that are tagged that I want. So if I just want the orange items or I just want the blue items, I can do that. So this can be very helpful if you have a great comment or a great piece of content that you want to save for the right time in the event or that you want to come back to later, that you can do that. It's also helpful when you're working with a team for delegation. We'll show a few examples of that whenever we work with panelists and producers in just a few minutes. So the Smart Stream is a very robust way to see your content coming in quickly, to find it, to search for it, to select things that are relevant and that you want to enter into the event. This will keep a running tally of hundreds of the most recent items that have been submitted, but over time, if there's a whole lot of content coming in, they will fall off because the assumption is if you've let something go several hundred comments deep, or it's several minutes or 30 minutes or a significant amount of time old now and too much of their content has come in after that, then you probably aren't going to look at it, at least not from the Smart Stream. But maybe you do remember that there was something that was published or there was a particular piece of content that you saw that you want to go back and find and now you don't see it in the Smart Stream. Well, from the search panel on the right, you can go back and find any of the content, not just the most recent. So let's say I'm over here in the comments and I want to go find something I know that was from Nigel, that was from a while back, it was maybe even from yesterday, then I can do that. And I can search the comments from here as well, and this will look at the entire body of comments that have been submitted in the event, not just the most recent. I have the same sort of filters I have here as I do in the Smart Stream, so I can limit by image, email, or API. And if you'll notice, I also have the ability to include published content. So this can be very useful whenever you know you've published some comment a while back, maybe you want to edit it or remove it, maybe it was inappropriate or maybe it's just now inaccurate. And going back through the event is also an option, and you can do that inline, but it may not be as easy as just coming over here to the comment search, checking to include published items, and then looking for it quickly. Here are my published comments. I can see them going back in time even, and then take an action. So maybe I want to remove one of these. So the search tool also provides you a very useful way to find published content as well as older content that may have rotated out of the Smart Stream because it's no longer recent or because of the large amount of content that's come in and pushed it down. So with that, what I'd like to do now is transition over and show you some of the things that you can do with the new panelist and producer capabilities and what those experiences are like. So from the toolbar, I'm going to jump into the panelist section. And as you'll see here, directly from within the event, using the Event Studio, you can see the online status of any producers or panelists that you've invited. You can also mouse over the icons here and determine whether or not they've accepted and accessed the event through their invite. You can also see if they're currently online. So if any of these users are not online, they'll show up with the status of offline. I can also see that maybe they didn't accept their invite. And I can also remove it if for some reason one of the producers or panelists is no longer going to be running the event or is becoming problematic. Well, then I can remove them from the event altogether. I can also take some actions and edit if I need to. So if I want to change their role or change their avatar on their behalf, then we can do those things as well. What I'm going to do here is actually add a new panelist. We'll add Joe Cool. And I can do that directly from here as well. We'll get the invite right away and can join the event immediately. I've indicated what role I want them as a producer. And so now they've received an invitation. And I can see that they're not online, they're offline, they haven't joined, and they have not yet accessed their invite. It has been sent, but they haven't received it, or haven't clicked on it and activated it. I can click here to resend that invite again. Alternatively, maybe they've checked their email, they can't find the invite, they look in their spam folder or can't locate it, and maybe we have the wrong email address for them. Whatever the case may be, you also have the ability from the edit screen to jump in and get the link for the event and send it to them directly. So maybe you want to private message them, you're on IM with them, or you want to send an email directly from yourself, you can do that. So this provides you an easy way in a crunch where if they can't find their invite or are having trouble, you can send them that link directly and get them into the event very quickly. So now what I'm going to do is switch over for just a second, and I have a CIL-Ben contributor that I've added as a panelist into the event, and I've logged into them inside of a different browser. So CIL-Ben, who I've renamed CIL Contributor over here, is looking at his view as a panelist. He has accepted his invite. He's come in, and as a panelist, you'll note that he just sees the event content, and he can add commentary to that. He can add images and do normal things that you could do from the live blogging context. He can make rich text if he wants to format it and upload media. But he doesn't have any of the controls to manage Twitter or to manage any of the comments or anything like that. This is an adjustment from the classic console and is done to a lot of customer feedback we've had that most of the time when panelists are involved, they're just there to provide comments and seeing content and seeing comments updates and seeing the fact that there's all these content coming in or there's Twitter things coming in can be confusing and cause them to have problems or to not necessarily know what they're supposed to do or where they're supposed to be taking action. So this view is limited and allows them to provide content that's unmoderated directly into the event, but doesn't have the distractions of Twitter content or comments coming in, and allows it to be a very, very focused and simple view for any of your panelists who are just there to provide content. If you do want them to be able to manage comments, maybe review questions and answers or Twitter content, then you can do that by changing their role. And you can do that even during the context of the event. So I'm going to edit his status and make him a producer now because I've decided I want him to work with us and review some of the content that I'm going to send his way in the form of comments on Twitter. So now I see that he's jumped over into the producers area. He's given a notification inside his own window that says he's been upgraded to a producer. And whenever he's ready to upgrade his access, he clicks there. And now our CIL contributor, CIL-Ben, has producer access and can access commentary, Twitter content, anything else that maybe you want him to manage during the course of the event. Another tool that's really useful that we've enhanced whenever you're working with a team is the private messaging capability. So you'll note you have the private message box down here, and if there are any messages that come up, they'll automatically display on the screen even with the box collapsed. But when you're ready to send a message, you can click on that box and determine whether or not you want to send it to everyone or just a particular contributor. I'm going to send a message to our CIL contributor. Letting him know I upgraded him. Oh, I can't spell. I'm going to let him know that I've upgraded him, and I want him to take the orange comments, please. And so that message is there. If I look back over here, and now I'm back over here with my CIL contributor, a message came up, although it may have gone away too fast for you to see on the WebEx, letting him see the private message, indicating that of what I just sent to him, that he's a producer and I want him to take the orange comments, and you can also see it down here whenever I maximize our comments, our content, and see where they're coming from. So I can see that I received a private message from Ben Lee indicating that I've now been upgraded to producer and take the orange comment. I can also send a message back, and as you can see in my window, here's another piece of content that's gone, a private message that's gone to everyone from Jill indicating hello, producer. So you'll see those messages right in line. They'll appear for a few seconds so you can see them and fade away. You don't have to go down to the private message box to see everything. But if you want to go reply, you can click on that and do so then. I can respond to the message right back and see the ongoing thread. So, for example, if I want to send a message to everyone, I can do that as well. And what I'm going to do is divvy out and delegate some commands. And this is where you'll see that tagging becomes very useful whenever you're running an event with multiple people involved, particularly very, very active. I'm going to let everybody know that CIL-Ben is going to take his orange content, that Jill take blue, David, yellow, Spencer, to continue writing commentary. So this message is going out to everyone. So not only does our contributor see it as a producer, but Spencer as a panelist and his window is seeing it, David and Jill are all seeing it, and that's a message that's gone to everybody. And that can also be replied to for everyone. So now everybody knows that what their delegation is and that they have responsibilities. So over here as CIL Ben, I've seen that I'm supposed to take the orange content. I think, great, I've got that. There's all this other content coming in, and I don't want to pay any attention to that because I know I've got a role specifically around orange content. So I'm going to filter by tags, click down to my orange content, and I can see these and review these. Decide to take action, and again, as a producer, I have all the same actions that I showed as the creator of the event. Add this content. Oh, this one I've already seen before. This comment has been mentioned a lot, so I'm not going to include that. So you can see that from a producer standpoint, if you're working with multiple people and you have a very active event, this is really, really useful to allowing the other people and the other contributors in the team to focus in on just the tasks that you want them to provide. Whether it's providing content, whether it's reviewing comments, or even other types of content such as Twitter, you can do that, delegate those tasks, and they can do it very easy and focus on just this task. So whether they're a panelist and all they're supposed to do is provide content, or they're a producer that's helping out while you review questions and answers, or other commentary that maybe you want to have another look at before it's done, you can do that and assign out those tasks, communicate within your team, and run a much more efficient and effective event. So with that, we'll transition over to, great, I have a lot, I'm running an event and I want to keep including a lot of really useful content, but I'm all by myself and my audience isn't actually contributing a whole lot either. So what can I do in those cases? Well, that's where the utility of our search and auto-tweet capabilities come in handy. And these are also useful for even large events where you do have a lot of audience participation as well. But they're critical whenever your event may be a little bit slower developing or static, or maybe it's a long event that's ongoing and you're providing just incremental updates here and there. So as you can see, I have now clicked from my toolbar on the auto tweet option. Now, CoveritLive Classic console had a lot of Twitter capability, including the ability to search for Twitter content and to add users and lists and hashtags, but we've expanded that a great deal with the Event Studio, giving you more flexibility over the type of Twitter content that you can bring in. As you can see, whenever you have added a person or a list, you can also optionally restrict the content that's being pulled in by that user or list in a number of different ways. One way is to indicate whether or not you want retweets included. You can also indicate whether or not the content should have links or images only. And you can also indicate whether or not you want to moderate that content first. So when content is moderated, it will come into the smart stream, but not your event. And you can see that that's happening right now with some of our Twitter content coming from the CIL Twitter handle. This content is not going into the live event, but it is here in the smart stream, and I can review it and decide whether or not I want to publish it first. If at any point I want that content to automatically flow into the event, then I can turn off moderation. And it will no longer queue up in my smart stream, it will go directly into the live event. So this is great if you have a trusted Twitter user, a trusted Twitter list, or a keyword that you're confident in, then you can go ahead and allow that to flow directly into the event. However, if it may be somewhat questionable or there's a lot of content and you want to restrict the flow to only the most qualitative things, then you can do that by moderating the content. Additionally, whenever you're auto-tweeting from people and lists, you can also add keyword filters to that. So say you want to include everything from this user, but it must also have a certain keyword in it as well, then you can do that. And the system then will only bring in content that matches all of that criteria. Of course, at any time, you can remove the content altogether. Or remove those Twitter users or lists, and that content will no longer be coming into the stream or your event. You can also auto-tweet keywords and set up automatic content by keyword, and you have a lot of the same options that you do whenever you're doing it by people and lists. You'll notice that you can include retweets or not. You can actually restrict it to links and images, and you can also indicate whether or not you want this content moderated. We additionally have the top tweet filter, which is our proprietary filter that will display either all content that matches your criteria, or only the content that is deemed of top quality based on who's tweeting it, the number of followers, the number of retweets, and a number of other things that factor in like that. This is a little slider, so you can decide if you want all content or only the top and how restrictive you want to be based on the slider control here. So this is a great way to get content publishing automatically into your event. Much like comments within the smart stream, once this content starts coming in, you can review it and filter it just on the Twitter filter as well. So if you are just focused and maybe the one who's delegated, or you only care about reviewing the Twitter content that's coming in, then you can do that. You can select to see just your tweets, and you can also search within this as well. So if I want to see just the CIL items, or if I want to see just the South by Southwest items, then I can do that. And just like comments, if they start coming in quickly, you can pause them, take your time to review what you want, search, filter, find exactly what content it is, take the actions that you want, and then resume where you left off. So this is a great way, using the auto tweet, to have content automatically populating into your event directly, or to queue up content that you want to review and publish into your event. In the event that maybe your audience isn't providing a lot of commentary, or that you just want to augment it with a lot of great content from Twitter. Similarly, you can also do one-off searches for Twitter. So if you don't want to just auto-publish content, but maybe you want to search and find specific pieces, you can do that, and you have a lot of the same search criteria here that you do whenever you're setting up the auto-tweet. So for example, I can indicate whether or not I include retweets, links, and images only, and then I can further search from there, and I can also do this by keywords or by users, and also indicate whether or not I want to include retweets and replies. One last area that I wanted to show on auto-tweet, jump back over for just a second, is up here you also have some additional configuration options that apply towards the whole event and not just individual Twitter entrants. From here, my auto-tweet settings will also allow me to select what languages. Here we go. What languages that I want to include. So if I want to include all tweets from all languages, I can do that, or I can restrict it to just certain languages. And I can also indicate whether or not I want to include replies in the content that's considered as well. So that provides you some additional filtration capabilities globally for the event, as well as what you can do individually on specific users, people, lists, and keywords. So the last area is, beyond Twitter, you also have the ability to serve a lot of other social sources as well for content. We've added some new ones in the Event Studio and made some existing ones, such as YouTube, much more robust. And you'll notice as you click through each of these, I've done search in Twitter, but as I jump over to Instagram, it automatically queues up the same keyword search that I did from Twitter. So now I can go and see Instagram content that matches the keyword, and I don't even have to retype it in. If I want to clear it out and search for something else, then I can do that easily. But it will be remembered across my searches until I change it. So this is a powerful way to include content from other sources, to enhance your event with images and media, and it can also be done for YouTube. And we've expanded the YouTube capability from what it was in the Classic console to also give the ability to restrict it by time. So maybe I only want South by Southwest items that are from this month, so I don't get older years. I have the ability to add an additional filter on that, and I can also preview the content in live. And just like I can with comments on Twitter, in addition to approving this content directly in the event, I can also tag it. So that way one of my panelists or producers can find it and decide when is the right time to introduce that into the event or review it first. We've also added Wikipedia as a source, in case you want to add quick references to content. Maybe somebody's mentioned something that you don't know, and you just want to look it up really quickly without leaving the event studio, and use it as your own reference, or maybe you want to publish it into the event. Lastly, you can add your own RSS feed. So maybe there's content that we haven't included that you want to pull from and include that in your event. You can do that as well. We have also had some suggested feeds, so you can always pull content from one of those. Or, if you have your own feed that you want to reference, you can do that and enter that in and pull content from a YouTube channel, a Tumblr blog, maybe a Flickr feed, or any other thing that's available through RSS. So again, a powerful way to include your own content or add access to other types of content that we may not have included already in the Event Studio. So with that, we've covered a great deal today in terms of showing how to manage comments whenever you have a large volume coming in, how to work with multiple users, the panelists and producers within the Event Studio, as well as the ability to search and auto-configure Twitter content and other social content to enhance your event through the new Event Studio. Hopefully, if you've already worked with the Event Studio, you've learned some new tricks and found out some new things that maybe you didn't know were there, or if you haven't and haven't made yourself familiar with the Event Studio, this makes you a little more comfortable so that way you can get ready to run your next event with it. We've got a lot of great feedback and even some great requests, and we'd love to have your feedback around your experiences using the Event Studio and additional capabilities that we'll look to add down the road in the roadmap. So, at this time, we'll jump over, and if you have any questions that you would like to present, you can put those into the WebEx chat now. And as those are queuing up, I'll do a quick reminder about our next CoveritLive University session in March, which will be focused on using the new Event Studio and some of the other capabilities that we didn't cover today, specifically around enhancing the engagement areas of your event with things like automated live scores for sports events, the new media library and the additional functionality we've added there, including the ability to edit images and captions in line, and how to engage users with some of the other new capabilities and enhancements we've added around polls, trivia, and the news flash. So at this time, if there's any questions, we'll take those, and I'll turn it over to Spencer.
Yeah, as Ben mentioned, you can click on the green bar at the top of your screen right now and click on chat, submit any questions you have there, and we will do our best to get to all of your questions because we value your feedback as well as helping you be successful with everything you're doing. We do have one question from earlier in the chat, which I answered directly, but I wanted to pass on to you. Obviously, we talked about moderation here as far as comments coming in, but we had a question from Mark on, is it possible to have comments auto-posted to the live event, which I know there's a couple different ways you can do that.
Yes, there is. One item which I spoke to very quickly is the ability to take a comment and a commenter and from the options you have when publishing the event, or publishing the content rather, you can see that one of the things that you can do is always allow. And so if you always allow any content or any comments that come from this user, will automatically publish into the event. So you no longer will have to moderate the content that's coming from them. Additionally, you can also invite them as a panelist at any point and have them contribute to the event directly. They will get the panelist view that I showed. But if you want to do that and trust them with a little bit more direct access, you can do that as well. And as a panelist, they don't have to sign in to CoveritLive. They can come in as a guest and just start contributing content for that particular event.
All right, we have a question here. How do you launch the Event Studio? This looks different than what we've used before, which you talked about earlier, but obviously there's the new Event Studio, but talk a little on what options people have right now.
Yeah, so whenever you're inside the CoveritLive, your dashboard area, and you're looking at your live events or the events that are coming up, you'll see here, like normal and like you've had with the Classic console for a while now, the ability to open the console and just click that link. Now, because I've already indicated that I want to use the Event Studio, this will just launch the Event Studio directly. But the first time you've encountered it, or if you haven't yet switched over to the Event Studio, you'll notice and you'll be asked whether or not you want to try the new Event Studio or you want to continue to use the Classic console. And you can make your selection at that time. The system will remember what you last selected from that standpoint, and then as you move forward, it will continue to open up the console experience that you've last used. But it should be good to note that if you want to try out the new Event Studio, but you can't find something, or you're in the middle of an event and know where it is in the Classic console, and don't remember where it is, and don't know how to find it in the Event Studio, and don't have the time to look really quickly, you can switch back to the Classic console at any point. There's a link in the upper right of the new Event Studio that allows you to switch back over. So at that standpoint, you can actually run an event using either one of the consoles, and you can have events run by both consoles by different people at the same time. So if some of your team is still using Classic and others are using Event Studio, then you can do that and run your event from either one or switch as you need to. You'll see that in the Classic console, there will be a constant little prompt down there to try out the new Event Studio so you can switch back at any time. And the first time you launch the Event Studio, there's also a nice walkthrough that shows you what each of the different sections do, where you see your live event, what the Smart Stream is for, what the toolbar and search areas are for, and it'll walk you through those. And you'll also notice that even after that, if you have an area in which you haven't used yet or you haven't actually made an entry, whenever you click over, for example, maybe onto search or into one of the other areas inside the console, there is inline help, such as right here that says drag and drop media. Here to directly upload your event. It will tell you how to search for content, and it will tell you a number of different things that you can do inline, and until you take that first action, it helps you walk you through it and really get you accustomed to what's going on. So you can switch back and forth. You can try out the Event Studio and go back even during the course of an event if you need to. And our goal is, though, that hopefully over time you'll find the Event Studio to be a much easier experience and much more powerful, and ultimately go to using it full time as you get familiar with it.
Ben, we have a question here from Herb. His question is around the scoreboard that you've been available or visible there throughout your presentation. And without going into too much detail or demoing, can you just kind of speak to what the options are with the new scoreboards? I know you said we were going to get to that on the next CILU session.
Yeah, and I won't go through all the detail here, but that's a great question. That is an example of our new scoreboards, and we've done a number of things to enhance scoreboards. We've for a long time had the ability to include manual scores where you can update the sporting event that you're following, and that still exists. But we now also have the ability for you to include live scores, and it means that you can automatically have scores updating from a number of U.S. and European professional leagues, as well as U.S. collegiate leagues for popular sports like football, baseball, basketball, soccer, European football, as well as many others. And so if you're covering one of those events, you can have a scoreboard included in your event that automatically updates and removes the need for you to manually provide that information during the course of your event, allowing you to focus on things like comments and Twitter content and social content and manage your event in that way and not have to worry about keeping up with the score. We're looking to add more in different ways that we can continue to add on the automated capabilities that we have across sports as well as other types of data over the future, and you'll see those things coming in the roadmap. But it's a pretty powerful way to where you're covering a major event, a major sporting event, to have a scoreboard persistent there that also has stats and updates very near to real time with what's happening in the game and allows people to follow along without adding additional work for you to keep up with that.
All right, one last chance for if you have any questions, I'll give you a minute here to send those into the WebEx chat client window. If not, we will begin to wrap up. All right, we do have a question that just came in from Courtney. We use CIL for Q&A type forums at our station with weather events and hydrofracking being the talker topic. Any suggestions you have on other stations of what other stations are doing now on incorporating CIL into a newscast?
That's a great question, and we've seen a number of different examples of that. I think one of the most common things, and for the Canadian Football League's coverage of the Grey Cup, there was an example where they took, during their pregame coverage of the game that was coming up, they were running a CoveritLive event simultaneously on TSM, and they pulled in the poll results using the CoveritLive API and were displaying that directly in the stream during the context of the broadcast. So that's a little bit different of an example, a case where as people were voting in the polls online and responding and adding commentary, they were pulling in that content and displaying it as a part of their online broadcast as well. So that's one potential example that you can take in a number of areas. Polls, whether it's around local topics, hot topics, voting on certain changes, or elections or things like that. In Austin here, we often have a lot of different things that are coming up with the city council that are often very controversial, and will also be featured as a part of the newscast, and so allowing people to vote through that, and even having an event set up to where that's the primary thing you're doing, is maybe providing some Twitter content and allowing people to vote and respond. You can include that in the broadcast. It would be a great way to engage them and bring the two mediums together. We've also noticed that the most popular topics in terms of people following for a long amount of time are always weather and traffic. So anything you want to do around those, and more specifically if it's conversations around road improvements or things like that, are also things that end up getting a lot of people involved in a lot of our local stations and a lot of events. And then of course sort of the last one that you can't really plan for, but is also normally a big item that's covered very heavily, are any sort of local crime or trial events. We've seen a number of cases here locally and in other cities where there is, whether it's a local well-known family or person involved in some sort of trial that captures the attention, and those are heavily attended events that people will keep up on their desktop all day long, following along what's happening, and then you can work that into your broadcast as well. So those are a few ideas. Hopefully those are helpful, and I'm sure there's more out there.
We have one late entry, so a little bit off topic, but we'll go ahead and get to it from Martha Howard. She's building an event right now, and as she listens, if you have a problem getting media published via drag and drop, are there other methods for her to try?
So drag and drop is certainly one way, which should be very easy for you just to pull it directly over into the event content when you're using the event studio in the blog entry area. But if for some reason that's giving you trouble, you can also click the button down there, and which will trigger just the normal upload file dialog and upload that directly into your event as well. And I can show you right down here the button to add event media. So if for some reason drag and drop gives you trouble, then you can do this. And it will upload and post to your event as well without having to drag and drop. And much like the traditional CIL console, you can also go over to the media library if you don't want it to go directly into the event and you want to see the content first, add a caption, maybe rotate it or do something like that. And again, this is an area we'll go into more detail on in the next CILU. But from here inside the media library, you can jump in and add content as well. So if for some reason drag and drop doesn't work, those are a few options to jump into the media library, or to upload it directly using the button that I showed you down there next to the post button. There's a couple of other options too. If you turn on the ability to email content in, you can also enable the option, which you'll find in settings, to enable email comments and to also allow for users to submit images. You can also submit photo content from the email address as an attachment as well. So there's a number of different ways that you can get it in there in case one of the others is giving you trouble. And hopefully one of those is helpful and addresses that. And if you're having a persistent issue, then please let us know at support@CoveritLive.com so we can look into it further.
And I think that will conclude our session today. I want to remind you, as Ben mentioned earlier, our next Cover It Live University session is Thursday, March 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern. Again, the topic, tips for using the new event studio. We appreciate you using Cover It Live and appreciate you joining us today. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you again next time at Cover It Live University.